Hi there, I'm Carrie Grant and welcome to Deconstructing Diversity. Today is World Fibromyalgia Awareness Day, and in order to celebrate it and raise awareness and think about all invisible disability, I've got three great guests. Siany, Gemma and Ian. So we're talking invisible disability. Now, you all look like fairly healthy people to me, and I'm sure if people are looking at me, they think I look healthy too. Siany, what different conditions are you living with right now?
Like a whole encyclopedia of medical conditions. I've got ME, which is the thing that sort of started. Then I've got fibromyalgia. Then I've got post-traumatic stress disorder. I've got PMDD, which is all like hormone related. I've got fibroids. I've got IBS. I think they all feed into each other personally.
Could you just describe for me what ME looks like in you?
There's not a single part of my body that's not affected by this. Like random things, like your clothes hurt, your tongue hurts. But the main sort of thing that dominates everything, I would say, is the fatigue. It's the fatigue that it's like affected by anything like sounds, lights, smells, conversations. And I think that's the thing that dominates and sort of affects all the other things. It's basically like I wake up every morning and it's like I have either fell down the stairs or had a massive fight in my sleep. It's just unbelievable. In the morning, it's very difficult to sleep. And then when you do sleep and you wake up, it's just like you've not been to sleep, or worse than when you went to bed. So that's the hardest for me. And I just think I think the fatigue, it just dominates everything. So when people say, yeah, I'm tired, I kind of try to not get annoyed, but I can't help it because it's like, okay, it's not the same. So that I do get really frustrated, I have to say. I've had so much over the years of negativity surrounding it and surrounding the people's attitudes. I think I found I have got underlying some anger because, because it's not taken seriously enough.
So the lack of understanding is something that's I hear about that quite a bit. Even I don't know much about ME or fibromyalgia, only a little bit, but that's something that seems to be a continuing theme, that you kind of not really understood, or people go, it's not really a thing, is it?
Early ME clinics were all based in mental health hospital departments. So immediately you're thinking, well, that's what they think.
That's so difficult. Let's jump over to Ian next, because you, I guess, started the day, fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
We just had a little bit about ME, and I can see you nodding away there.
Yeah.
What is the difference? So fibromyalgia is what you have. What does that look like in your body?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many similarities with what's just been said in so many areas. But it's the pain. So with fibromyalgia, there's such a range of fibromyalgia and in terms of how you be suffering with it. I have pain every day. So every single day and night it hurts. And it's like, it's hard to describe it. I guess it's a bit like having the flu, that sort of horrible ache you have that's just always there. And you sort of get used to it being there and you don't really remember what it was like when it wasn't there. But then you get flares, and the flares can happen just out of nowhere, and they can last for days, weeks. I've had ones that have lasted months. And those was where the pain goes up a whole stratosphere. That's like someone who's just kicking you and punching you and rolling you around. When I'm flaring, my depression kicks in and my anxiety heightens and the brain fog hits. And people hear about this brain fog, and again, you try and describe brain fog. It's very hard to, but it's just basically your brain just doesn't, it's just mush. You can't remember, and you're just focusing heavily on trying to just stay upright. It's the flares are where it really gets tough, because you just don't know where they're coming from and how long they're going to last.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it sounds like, I think for all of us, I'm a Crohn's disease patient. I think normalizing, you don't remember after a while what it was like not to be in pain, perhaps, or not to have this thing. Let's go over to you, Gemma. So you have inflammatory bowel disease. What does that look like in your body?
Basically, obviously, because it's on the inside. So people, as you said at the start, you know, they look at you and they think, well, you look okay, you know, but had they turned the insides out, not that I've got much left inside now because it's all been removed, but had they turned the insides out, you know, it could prove just a different story, really, you know. And it is people, I get the frustration, you know, people think, oh, you look well. And I don't know if it's a pick me up or I don't know what it is, but obviously, you know yourself, as I said for yourself, Carrie, you don't know how you are from one day to the next. If we were going on like days out anywhere, it would be, how do I get up in the morning? How do I feel? And it wasn't looking for shops, it was looking for the toilets. And that's how life was revolving around it. And it's not just like people think 5-6 times to the bathroom a day. You're looking 20-30 times a day. And you imagine having, the way that I described it to some family and friends was, if you had like a sickness and diarrhea bug, how you feel drained after a couple of days. This can go on for months and months on end, you know. And it took me a long time to actually go to a doctor because I was so scared. I was so scared of the unknown and not knowing what was going on with my body. And I've got a stoma now, I've had my colon removed, and I was left fighting for my life.
So Gemma, for you, are you diagnosed, do you have Crohn's disease or colitis? Which one do you have?
At the start, it was colitis, and then obviously further testing and stuff like that. And then, as I say, 5 years ago, when I had emergency surgery, the whole bowel was took out. I lost all my colon. And if anyone had mentioned surgery to myself or a stoma, you know, I'd have ran a mile basically from the hospital, but I was that poorly. I said, just take me now. You know, it was my get out of jail. It was either that, there was no other option basically. And I was left in a coma afterwards, fighting for my life. But I mean, I must stress that everyone's journey, don't be frightened, everyone's journey is completely different.
How long do you think it takes you to get used to having something you know isn't going to go away? Okay, so our NHS is built on critical care. It's a critical care system. It's not built on chronic care. So we are people that have chronic conditions. We're living longer, but we're sicker. So in that journey, it took me 5 years just to get my head round, you are a sick person. You know, that sentence was so hard to admit to myself. And I had to be like you in hospital and having bits of my bowel removed before I could truly kind of embody and sit in the fact that I am a sick person. I'm also a lot of other things, but that is part of who I am.
I think with specifically with ME, I don't know why, but fibromyalgia seems to be taken a little bit more seriously. I don't know whether that's because it has an actual specific test, sort of, whereas ME doesn't. Whereas a lot of people, doctors, people generally, family even, will be saying, you know, you need to do this, you need to do this in the future, and they don't see me being ill forever. They see me getting better, which has not been the case, and I know deep down that I've actually got a lot worse since I've been doing more. Ironically, I wanted to do so many things with my life, and I feel like I can't do them. And you know, my dad will be saying, well, in the future maybe, but I know that I can't, and you know, it's difficult. It's hard to accept.
I really love your honesty, and thank you for saying that. I do think there is a season for everything. So I think there are seasons where it's absolutely awful. And it's a bit like Ian was saying about during flare time, you know, you're just like,
oh yeah,
it's so bad. I feel like I've just been pushed under the water again. I can't get my head up for air. And then eventually you just let, you know, you've got a straw, a bit of oxygen comes and you feel like, yeah, that's it. That's going to last me a month. So I think I think it does take time, and also it's fluid. So there are times where you can be very positive perhaps, but then when you're back ducked under, it's very difficult again. What's your journey with that, Ian?
Yeah, I think that what you mentioned at the beginning about chronic care versus sort of acute care is huge, because you're given, firstly, it takes you so long for people to diagnose you because it's what it isn't as opposed to what it is. And you know, I've been diagnosed with so many different things that weren't true until we got to the final result, and that messes with your head. That doesn't help at all. You just get more and more worried. Why don't they know what's wrong with me? And it's hard. And for me, that I suffered a lot with grief of loss of who I was, and that was really, really hard. But it was only when I understood that and accepted that who I was, parts of it, they're not coming back. that's when I could start to sort of move forward a little bit.
That's really interesting. And what about for you, Gemma?
Mine was 2005 when I was diagnosed. So you're looking, 16 years now, aren't you? I mean, internet wasn't rife in them days. It was the dial-up connection. None of this 3G. Grab your phone, have a quick Google, although it's not always the best option to do, but have a quick look. There was no information. There was nothing. It was, you've got this chronic condition. You've got Crohn's disease, and basically just try and get on as best as you can with life. But it wasn't that easy. And there's a lot more like support groups and that around today. But it wasn't till I was actually having surgery, and then when they took the colon out, and I thought, this disease has robbed me of so much, and I think I just tried to get on with life as best as I could, and I had time to think. It really got me. And then just have a stoma, I just couldn't accept it psychologically. I couldn't accept, and it had taken all this away from me. I was 25 when diagnosed, and a lot of my friends were like flying the nest and getting married, kids, all that, and I feel so much had been taken away from me through having a chronic condition. I've had counselling regarding it. Mentally, that is really hard. And you think, what do my friends think? Do they think, oh, she's ill again? They don't, by no means. My friends are very supportive.
I so relate to what you're saying. And actually to what you said, and also what Ian said about grief. I think that for me, I spent 5 years looking at what I had lost. And one day, I remember it, like I was laying in the bed in hospital, 4 a.m, like it always is in hospital, there's lights on everywhere. And I just thought, how did I end up here? Like, this was not what my life was meant to look like. And at that point, this was 5 years in, I remember thinking, the sentence started running around my head: stop looking at what you've lost and look at what you've got left. And something in me just flipped that. And it was like my brain, it's the mindset change. It's like some neural pathway just went flip. And at that point, suddenly hope came in, because I thought, okay, I can't leave this bed. I'm in pain most of, they give you the drugs every 4 hours. I'm spending 2.5 of those 4 hours waiting for the next, time I can take some more pain relief. But I've got an hour each of every 4 hours, I get an hour. What could I do with that hour? Maybe I just start writing. I need to start creating. I need to start doing something, because if I can't get out of here, I need to find a way out. I need to find that route out. And I've got to look at what I've got left and stop looking at, I feel like I was driving, looking in the rearview mirror like that, and wondering why I was feeling like I was crashing the whole time, because I couldn't actually see where I was going. And I feel like it's just like my eyes went, okay, this is what's left. It's a bit rubbish, if I'm honest, but hey, maybe we can do something with this. I mean, I know for you, Ian, you're a cook, so you know all that stuff about, I've got to make something out of nothing. You get your ingredients, you're like, I will make something beautiful. I don't have that skill, but I had kind of had it in a life skill, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I lost the skill. I used to love it. And when I got sort of more and more ill, it was the last thing I wanted to do was cook anything. And it was only really when someone asked me, what is it do you really want? And I sort of took a gulp and said, oh, crikey. And then it's only really then I thought, the only thing I really want is to be back in my family again, is just to be a part of them again. And that then is a massive thing. How the heck do you get there? And so I thought, well, let's try cooking again and see what happens. And it was an absolute disaster to start with. I mean, I couldn't remember what end things. I had the oven on the wrong thing. Everything was going wrong. But I just had this vision in my mind of my family and not an empty chair. I was in it. Every day I have to tell myself that's what this is about. It's not about me feeling the way I am. It's about my kids and my wife having a better life, me having a better life, a quality of life, because I'm up and about a bit more and I'm actually positive and I'm achieving something. But it's not easy, and it takes a lot of focus and it hurts to do it. But once I opened up myself to the fact that it doesn't matter if you make mistakes, it doesn't matter if things go wrong, it's okay to laugh about the things that have gone horribly wrong. And now I celebrate those things more than the things that have gone right, because it actually makes you feel a bit, oh, okay, that's all right.
I've had quite a lot of friends remove me from Facebook or unfollow me, especially when it was less fashionable to talk about sort of things, because they were sick of reading about negative illnesses. And I just thought, well, this is life, and I'm going to share the negative stuff because I have to, because you can't see it. So I want people to know what you can't see. So I guess I do focus on that quite a lot, but it's something that I've had to fight for forever. So
I think it's really important that you get to do that. And I think that there are many people who feel exactly like you do. I was in hospital just 4 years ago or something, and I had my second child was also in hospital with a whole other thing going on. And so, you know, it's like one on one floor, one on another floor, not knowing if my child would live, and just thinking, this is just horrible. This is just so awful. I don't want my life to be like this.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to points where I thought, you know what is the point getting up in the morning? But something gets me up, you know, whether it's like my artwork or seeing my dog or the fact that I've got parents that are really supportive. Something gets me up and out there. But there are times, yeah, when I really feel like, well, what's the point? I'm so tired. I've had a 5-minute conversation on the phone and I just feel like I need to go to bed.
Just actually picking up on tiredness, Gemma, it's an area that we talk about. We now have studies, don't we, with the inflammatory bowel disease community that have seen that depression and fatigue are clinically evidenced as being a part of having IBD. Is that something that you struggle with as well?
The fatigue is just really, and I think mentally as well, trying to get your head around things as well. And I think that can be quite draining as well. And I've had a lot of counselling following on from my surgery because I was so poorly and was fighting for my life, and had lots of things that was beating me up inside, and it was draining mentally as well. So I think, the fatigue element is just, and there's days like you say yourself, Ian and Siany, you know, it's like, how am I going to manage? How am I going to cope? How am I going to get through this day today? And it's what people think of you as well, isn't it? You know, when you're out and about and I'm flagging here, and you want to be like the next person, but you know your body physically can't manage it as that, you know, and you feel like you've let down people. And obviously I've got very supportive parents and, you know, family and friends, but you still think of it, don't you? You still think, what are they thinking of me? And I'm tired again. But it's life of a chronic condition, sadly. And, you know, it's as much awareness as we can get out there to educate people.
Did it take ages to get diagnosed?
Yeah, it took years and years and years. When the sort of pain first hit, that I could feel the pain, and actually that was about 9 or 10 years ago. But going back, it was actually way before that where it all started, and I'd been going to see doctors for various things, and the signs were all there. I didn't know what they were, but they were, looking back, they were all there. But it was just all treated as an isolated issue. It took me a long time to get diagnosed, but even then, that didn't necessarily help that much, because there's no real set journey as to what does that mean. There's no one that says, oh, now you've got fibromyalgia, we know exactly where we're going to send you and how this is going to work. It's like, we'll throw you over here, that might help you. Or if you've got depression, they can help you. But no one goes, well, actually, this is a package here that needs to be, please help me.
That's really interesting. And what about for you, Gemma? You mentioned then by the time you got diagnosed, you were actually really ill, weren't you?
At the start, I was obviously back and forth to the bathroom, and I didn't tell anybody. I was in the living room one day and my dad said to me, he said, you've lost weight, you don't look well. And I just burst out crying. And I was marched literally straight to the doctors, and within 2 to 3 weeks, I'd had the camera test, which you're like, you put a camera where? So I was lucky in one sense, it was a quick diagnosis. But you hear of people like 2, 3, 4 years waiting for a diagnosis. So I do count myself lucky in that respect, because treatment was started. But I just was not responding to whatever treatment was available. There was new treatments coming on the market, trying the new treatments, and it was just a vicious circle, really. And it wasn't until I had the surgery that it made me realise how poorly, how much it had taken away from me. But after I'd had the surgery, I was obviously so poorly. It gave me a new sense on life, and I started reaping the rewards from having a stoma. I remember coming out of the hospital, and obviously I was in a coma, my family were called, and I remember looking up at the sky and just thinking, how beautiful are those clouds? Just something that we take for granted every single day. And I was just thinking, you know, this is the start. This is the start of something now, you know, this is part of you. You've had major surgery, but this is, you know, there's a whole new life out there now to hopefully get you, you know, get yourself on that road for that to, you know.
I'm going to cry now.
If there's anything that you'd want people to know about either your condition or invisible disability that you think, I wish I could just tell people that, what would it be?
I guess I would say that it's just really important to not judge us on what you see, you know, what we look like, how we are, because you really only see like a glimmer of our day. You know, you might see us out laughing, joking, but you don't see what goes on behind closed doors, or you don't really see how we feel from one minute to the next. So you might see us out having a good time, but you're not seeing that we've been in bed all day to get there, or we've been in bed all day afterwards.
Great piece of advice. Thank you, Siany. And how about you, Ian?
Yeah, I think firstly, just to understand that no day is the same. You know, no, you could see me yesterday and think, oh, he's looking all right, and then the next day I'll be completely out of it, and they won't know because they can't see you. And the other thing for me is, I think that often with an illness that affects you like it has us, the effect it has on your closest, your loved ones, is often, particularly by the people who are suffering. I blinkered into my own pain bubble, and you know, my wife and children had to just get on with their life. And because I shrank away from people, I dragged them away from people too. So if I could give one piece of information out, it would be, yes, the person who's suffering needs some care and attention, but so do the people who are with them. And I think if you can not move away from those people, if you can show them a bit more understanding and just say, do you want to go out for a coffee? Even if they say no, that feeling will just be, oh, thank God, you know, there is a world out there who's thinking about me. The impact on you and the impact on your family, I think, are two very important issues for people to be aware of.
I am so glad you mentioned, I would have forgotten that, Ian, the impact on your family. We need to really hear from the supporters, the carers, the families of those of us that have chronic conditions, because they also have a story.
So for me, I think, yeah, behind the smile, there is the tears, you know, there is the pain, there is, I've not been able to get out of bed today, and just a bit more of a little bit of understanding on the situation. You know, 9 times out of 10, people are really understanding on it, but you may look well on the outside, but on the inside, it's a completely different story.